Hi ma'am, I finished my needs assessment and I just wanted to let you know how it went. So I started with getting in touch with your contact at the RCMP, who put me in touch with some of the instructors in their dog handling training cell. They gave me a pretty good overview of how the training has to happen. I also sat down with our security team here on base and our base security officer, and here's what I found out. So when I started my analysis, I was coming up with potential obstacles to this training. So in my list, there were a couple of things that turned out not to be a lack of clear and relevant guides was one. So we do actually have good documentation, standard operating procedures for how a security member's job is supposed to be conducted day to day. There is also documentation on how to incorporate the dogs through courseware from the RCMP and other agencies that provide training. Another non-issue is our employees. They are capable of and receptive to training. Issues that I did come across were time. Time is a major obstacle to this training. Another obstacle that I encountered is that we don't have the experts in place to provide the training to our employees. And finally, the motives of our security personnel here on base are lacking lately. So to get into more detail, 180-day time frame, the time frame that was originally set out, is not just very tight. It actually is contradictory to how training is supposed to occur. So the RCMP SMEs explained that the dogs are supposed to be immediately paired from the get-go with their handler so that a bond can form. And it's only through the forming of a relationship with the handler that the dogs function most effectively in their role as security personnel. So the issue that we are running into here is that the second wave of dogs that are going to be distributed across Canada to the bases that require them, they won't be arriving until the very end of the 180-day period. So this compromises our security team's ability to achieve the intent of using the dogs in the security procedures. Another issue that we have is that we lack a hands-on training provider. So as it turns out, the RCMP are unavailable at any time over the next 6 months to provide training to our personnel. So this obviously compromises our ability to deliver training in a timely manner. Now, other agencies can be contracted to provide training to Canadian Forces members. However, it is unknown what availability they might have in their schedule to provide said training. Finally, we have a lack of motivational alignment in our security personnel here on base. So recently, it's come to light that our screening teams at the gates have not been performing screenings on vehicles to the standard that would be expected by the Canadian Forces. So they tend to feel pressure from civilians who don't really understand why they're being held at the gate. So they're not necessarily performing a very thorough screening of the vehicles of civilians who complain. So obviously this poses a problem in that it creates a security issue for our base, and furthermore creates a confidence issue among the public in the Canadian Forces. So if a little bit of complaining gets you waved onto the base, how much confidence do you have in the Canadian Forces' ability to maintain security not only on its bases but across Canada and the world? We also ran into just a general lack of understanding of the program that's being rolled out, and a general feeling from security personnel that they do not feel prepared in any way to start training dogs and caring for dogs when they've only just been informed of their arrival. So because this is a security capability that's being rolled out, it's of course very important that our staff feel comfortable and prepared with whatever it is that we're trying to implicate. Because this is such a major change being rolled out across the Canadian Forces, I have some recommendations. The first one being that we seek an amendment to the training deadline. We can absolutely get training started within the 180-day time frame that was originally laid out. That won't be an issue, but it's not feasible to complete the training of the handlers within such a short time frame. I also think it's important to immediately address the security issues that we're seeing on the base. We don't want to see an erosion of our current capabilities when we're trying to add new capabilities to our roster. I also think it's important that the employees be made to understand why the dogs are being introduced and why it's a good thing. The sooner that dialogue can happen, the better. Finally, I can source instructor training from another agency right away, so we can at least get things started. I can grab their training materials and go through them so that I can get a feel for where we need to go from here. So with your permission, I'm going to go make some calls.